Welcome to the Matt Bernier Show.
What's happening? It's the Matt Bernier Show here on DRFTV, live.drf.com, livestream.com. If you're watching live, my name is Matt Bernier. You can follow this show. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. If you check this thing out, podcast version, you have YouTube, you have SoundCloud, you have iTunes, you have video.drf.com. You got a million ways to check this thing out, even if you're not checking it out live with us here on Friday afternoon, every Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Leading up through, obviously, the Kentucky Derby, that's what all the focus is on this stage in the game. But before we get to that, just kind of want to say thanks to everyone that has watched and has followed along from the very beginning, because today is the 1 year sort of anniversary of this entire thing. Thank you to everyone here at the Racing Forum that gave me just the shot to say, you know what, I went to them, said I wanted to try this. They allowed me to do so. Here we are a year later. Hopefully things continue to go on. And again, without anyone listening or watching, this thing doesn't continue on. So thank you for those of you that have been from the very beginning. And thank you for those of you that have come along throughout on this little journey that we've had. So just want to get that out of the way and say thanks. Also, sounds like people enjoyed last week's show. I know it was taped, but the sort of progress report, I got some good feedback on that. So you've got two more of those that are going to come before the first Saturday in May. One of those, the next one, will be about 3 weeks from now. So we'll have a little bit more time to digest and see what's going on. And that brings us into today's show, in the top anyway. There has been some news that's broken over the past week and a half or so since we've last talked live anyway, last spoken. This morning was some more sort of disconcerting news as far as Classic Empire is concerned, and that's why I think the overriding term for me coming into this Saturday is stability. I need a little bit of stability here from these 3-year-olds. In case you missed it this morning, Jay Privman, I believe, was the one to file on DRF Live. If you're watching live.drf.com, just below us here on the news feed, Classic Empire had a work aborted this morning. Seems like he has some discomfort in his back. They're going to see if he can roll it out on his own when he goes out and rolls in his pen. If that doesn't work, they're bringing a chiropractor in. This just kind of goes into more and more little hiccups here. He had the foot problem that we talked about in the Holy Bull. Sounds like that's sort of solved itself, but boy, doesn't it just feel like this horse is hinting at things that maybe he's just not right. The Kentucky Derby favorite after him was McCracken. McCracken exits his most recent workout earlier this week with a little bit of filling in the ankle. So now all of a sudden, two of your choices or two of your contenders on the short list are not feeling so hot leading up to the first Saturday in May. Luckily for them and their connections, plenty of time. Plenty of time, and it sounds like both of them are going to be pointing for the Bluegrass at Keeneland as their final prep before the first Saturday in May. I say stability because not just because of their little hiccups here and there, but because of other races that we've seen since we last spoke, or since I last spoke to you guys here live 2 weeks ago. You know, we went over a couple of races that were going to be going on 2 weeks ago, 2 Saturdays ago anyway. You had the El Camino Real, you had the Hyacinth out in Japan, you had the Southwest Stakes, that was on the Monday holiday, and then last Saturday you had the Risen Star. And in each instance, maybe with the exception of the Hyacinth, and we'll talk about that one right now at the top, Epicharis went into it. We had Dan Illman on to talk about it. He said he was clearly the horse to beat. He said Adorado was a logical contender. The two of them, they run 1-2. Epicharis gets through on the rail. The connections are still mulling over what their situation is. The UAE Derby is certainly going to happen for Epicharis coming from Japan, but although he has the points to get into the Kentucky Derby, they're still leaning toward Belmont. They got a long way to go to iron that out. If he doesn't go, Adorado has the points to get in. Other than that, the 3 subsequent races I thought were a little bit topsy-turvy. Let's start off with the El Camino Real Derby. Going into it, you had Sheer Flattery, you had Ann Arbor. Those two were the logical contenders, and they took the lion's share of the money. But Zakharov springs a giant upset here.
Kona Dreams is now losing some ground. Zakharov running a big one. He's cut loose on the outside and has to run down Ann Arbor in the final 1/8 of a mile. Ann Arbor, Zakharov on the outside. Tribal Storm is in between them. More Power to him has surfaced late, and Zakharov comes up to take the lead, and he'll cause a big upset in the El Camino Real Derby under Kyle Frey.
Now, Zakharov was a horse that he was slowly but surely putting things together. Bit by bit, he was getting better, but he was 50-1 in that race. Sheer Flattery, up the track, draw a line through him. I don't think his sort of Derby dreams are going to come true. In Arboretti, he tried really hard. He got disqualified for drifting out a little bit there, but it was at 1 1/8, and he was on his hands and knees crawling to the wire. I just don't think he wants to go that far. All of a sudden, not that the El Camino Real is a historically important Derby prep, but at the end of the day, prep points were awarded to the winner there. So, okay, topsy-turvy, a little bit chaotic. You go to the Southwest Stakes, and going into it uncontested looked so impressive in his prior start, and I know it was, one thing led to another, and maybe it was the wet track that was really moving him forward in the Smarty Jones, but he was out there and he set a legitimate pace and he went off and he looked really good, and you had Petrov, who knows how far ultimately he wanted to go, and then One Liner shows up for Todd Pletcher and does this.
Contested is back into second, and now Petrov past mid-stretch leads by 2 lengths. One Liner is his only danger. These two to the final furlong. One Liner alongside Petrov. They're sprinting away, and One Liner has now taken the lead. Petrov is back to second. Here's an undefeated Southwest winner, One Liner.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think he looked very good there, and this is the first time I've actually been able to talk to any viewers about this race because I wasn't around for the weekend wrap. I thought he was very impressive. I'm always dubious about how far, based on pedigree, he's going to want to go. I believe he is either a Harlan's Holiday or an Into Mischief, one of the two. And point being, I don't really like either one of them as far as distance is concerned. Mile and 16th, no problem. I love the way that he finished. But going back to the whole sort of stability, topsy-turvy feel of things, uncontested, he looked like he was ready to roll at the top of the lane. What does he do? He packs it in up the track. Petrov at least put in a good bid, but I'm still a little bit dubious about how far he wants to go and ultimately how good he really is. And the rest of the field, just throw a blanket on him, and as far as the Derby's concerned, chuck him out. I don't think there's a lot there. Still, we're feeling a little bit unstable here as far as where everyone stacks up. And the last race that we'll talk about happened last Saturday. That was the Risen Star down at the fairgrounds. And I understand Gervin was a highly thought of horse coming into it, and he had run just fine in that turf stakes race in his prior start, in his first time going up against winners, but that's not really what he wants to do. He wants to be a dirt horse. I didn't know if ultimately he wanted to go this far. You go out, you see what he does, he gets the job done in rather impressive fashion. I didn't like that he hopped to his left lead there momentarily, but I feel like he's just a little bit green. But going back into the horse stability thing, going into the race, Motown, everyone loved Motown. I think we can all admit that the Remsen at this stage, a disaster. Everyone that's come out of that race has run terribly. You need to really consider going forward that maybe that race is one that you just want to draw a line through and say, I don't want anybody coming out of it. And then Guess Sweet, who had won the local prep prior to the Risen Star in the Lecomte, I actually thought he ran just fine. I know a lot of people are down on him, but considering where he was and how he finished, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's still slow, but he's slowly getting better bit by bit. I'm not suggesting he's going to be a proper Derby contender, and who knows, maybe he will be at some point, but right now he's a little bit slow. That leads us into this weekend, and we'll dive into that. That's going to be the third segment, the two big Derby preps here on this show today, the Matt Bernier Show. You've got the Gotham, you've got the Fountain of Youth. The Fountain of Youth, you have Irish War Cry, you have Gunnevera, you have Practical Joke making his 3-year-old debut. You have a lot of logical contenders in there. The Gotham, you have El Arib. He is hands down the leader of the New York contingent right now, even though he's based down in the Mid-Atlantic in Maryland. If El Arib stubs his toe and someone else comes up and gets him, and if the big three down in Florida, if for some reason they don't come through with their best effort, there's a part of me that's going to look at it and say, outside of the horses in Southern California, the Gormleys, the Masteries, who will make his seasonal debut shortly, the American Anthems, where is the stability? I think there's a lot of quality with these 3-year-olds, but right now, I think this thing is just kind of, we're playing a little bit of Yahtzee right now. Throw all the dice into the can and throw it, and whatever comes out is what comes out. It's an interesting sort of road at this stage in the game going toward the first Saturday in May. I think we have quality. We'll find out if they can sort of sort themselves out and really develop some sort of true pecking order as far as who is the leader in the clubhouse at this stage in the game. When we come back, we're diving into all handicapping for this entire show. Second segment, third segment, Gulfstream Park has a giant day of racing. We'll focus mostly down there, but we'll also get you involved with the Gotham up here at Aqueduct. Stay with us, the Matt Bernier Show.
California Chrome.
Away to the Kentucky Derby.
California Chrome wins impressively.
He's gone into overdrive. California Chrome wins the Dubai World Cup.
One of the greatest performances you'll ever see.
Chrome turns to gold.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRFTV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker, the exotic wagering app.
12:11 on the East, 9:11 on the West. The Matt Bernier Show on DRFTV, live.drf.com, livestream.com if you want to watch live. You also have Twitter and Facebook that I forgot to mention at the top of the show. But then as far as the podcast is concerned, you have YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. Let's dive into it. Huge day of racing Saturday afternoon down at Gulfstream Park. Graded stakes galore. The entire card is almost full of stakes races, top to bottom. We're going to go through two of those races in this segment. When we come back after break, we'll dive into the big two, the 3-year-old preps, the Gotham, as well as the Fountain of Youth. Let's go into the Devona Dale. You've got a full field of 14 in here. If you're new to the show, if you're listening, it's tough for you to really grasp what I've got going on here. But if you're new to the show and you're watching it or you're checking it out, however you're watching, the far right side, you have my odds. That's what I consider fair value on these horses. It's a value line. It's not a morning line. It's what I would consider fair on each one of these, and you'll be able to tell just based on the numbers that I don't have a very strong opinion in the race. Summer Luck 16-1, Jordan's Henny 13-1, Modacious 9-1, From Rhea to Riches 99-1, Yes I'll Go 6-1, Ellie's Honor 9-1, Miss Sky Warrior 6-1, Saratoga Citizen 19-1. As we turn the page, the 9 Eloquent Riddle for Chad Brown 8-1, Grand Cherry 99-1, Aspen Hilltop 13-1, Pretty City Dancer 8-1, Brahms Cat 49-1, and Champagne Problems 99-1. This is a race. I understand it's a prep for the Kentucky Oaks, but locally it's a prep for the Gulfstream Park Oaks. The East Coast fillies thus far, maybe with the exception of a horse like Miss Sky Warrior, who was a 2-year-old, all she did was go out and she ran her typical race. A high 70, an 80. I mean, I think in her 4 lifetime starts, her buyers have only been separated by 2 points. She's between a 78 and an 80. If she runs her race, she's one of the more likely contenders in this spot. I don't particularly trust her. I don't think she's done anything that wows me and makes her just some sort of standout in this field. The bigger point, though, that I'm trying to make about this field and the East Coast fillies as a whole, I don't think there's a lot of quality here. Not right now, anyway. Pretty City Dancer has a big chance with the blinkers going on. She's the only one that I want coming out of the forward gal. I thought the forward gal as a whole was trash. No offense to anybody that's involved with the horses. I don't mean that the horses themselves, but just they're not that good right now. That doesn't mean they can't be good down the road. But right now, I don't think there's a lot of quality in there. Maybe Pretty City Dancer, if anyone comes out of it, maybe she's the one that takes advantage. The blinkers go on. And usually this has been a positive move from Mark Cassidy in the past. The horse that I'm most interested in, I'm going to call her a live long shot. And the horse that I'm picking and hopefully betting in the race is the 5, Yes I'll Go. Yes I'll Go was a horse that we were hopeful to show you the replay, but because the horse ran most recently down at Ocala in the OBS Sprint, you can go on to the OBS website and see the replay of it. I love the fact, okay, it was over a synthetic surface. I'm not going to hold that against her. I love the fact that she was down on the inside throughout, on the lead. A horse came up, actually passed her by about 3/4 of a length. She's down on the inside. This is far from the easiest of trips. And she goes on with it. She changes her leads. She goes on and actually lengthens her stride down the lane. I know that was 6 furlongs. Her run 2 back. She got beat by some of these common opponents. It was over a sloppy sealed track, and I really didn't think it was that poor an effort. Then you go back to her career debut. I don't know that I believe the 90 buyer that she earned down at Gulfstream Park West, but she was very visually impressive in my opinion. I think of all the horses in here, the thing I was trying to sort of make clear when we go over the stakes preview, which you can find on video.drf.com, the full nuts and bolts. One-turn miles at Gulfstream Park thus far at this meeting tend to favor speed. And I understand there's a lot of speed signed on in here, but I want a horse that's going to be forwardly placed. I don't want to have to rely on trying to come from the back of the pack. Give me Yes, I'll Go. I believe she's 12-1 in the morning line. I made her 6-1. If she's at 6, it's worth a play. But again, based on what my odds are, you could tell that I don't have a super strong opinion in there. I would need to go deep to feel confident. The Canadian Turf, I think, is a fantastic race. It's a really interesting race. Doesn't necessarily merit, warrant some sort of giant praise as far as the quality is concerned. I think it's fantastic, though, from a betting standpoint. As you can see, you've only got a field of 9 in here. McKagan is the one. I made him 7-1, projected 4-1, Heart to Heart 4-1, Bondurant 9-1, Conquest Panthera 7-1, Giant Run 8-1, Dragon Bay 24-1, Interpol 10-1, Vision Perfect 49-1. We're going to take a look at who I think the most likely winner in the race is. And I think it's Heart to Heart simply because of the trip that he could pull. We're going to take a look at his most recent start. This was in the Fort Lauderdale Stakes. And at this point, Julian Leparoux is all over him, and he's being collared by Rose Breyer, and he's gonna stay on reasonably well at 1 mile and a 16th. But the old Heart to Heart, I think with the speed that he has, and with the fractions that he set, you take a look up in the top right corner, 48-1, 12 flat for 3/4. The old Heart to Heart would have made that field pay in a big, big way. And there's just a part of me that thinks maybe he's lost a little bit on the fastball. And if that's the case, he may be ripe for the picking. Now, he's the kind of horse that if he doesn't get the lead, he cannot win. He's shown that in his career time and time again. I think he's going to get the lead. I think he's going to set a reasonably easy pace. But the thing that has me intrigued in one horse in particular, and that is the one horse, McKagan, as we take a look. I think he's a live long shot. 2 starts back from McKagan in the Artie Schiller, you had Heart to Heart out there on the lead up here at Aqueduct, and I know there's a little bit of cut in the ground, and that's really what McKagan enjoys. But you had Heart to Heart out there doing his thing, and McKagan actually sat for the first time in his life and still went on with it and got the job done at a giant number. The most recent start in the Fort Lauderdale, don't hold that against McKagan. He was sandwiched in that unfortunate incident at the top of the lane. I don't know that he would have kicked, but I don't want to hold that against him. I think he works out the exact same trip he worked out in the Artie Schiller, and if I have doubts about Heart to Heart and overall where he is, I still think he's the most likely winner. But if I have slight doubts and reservations about how good he still is, give me McKagan at what I know is going to be a giant, giant price. I made him 7-1. He's 15 on the line. I won't be surprised if he's every bit of 15, if not north of that, in the 20-1 range. So I think the most likely winner is Heart to Heart. I think you have to use him in multi-race wagers. But I think the live long shot and the play for me and the pick for me, and most of my eggs will be in the number 1 McKagan's basket in the Canadian Turf. We're going to take a break here on the Matt Bernier Show. When we come back, we're going to dive into the 2 big ones. We've been waiting for them, buried the lead a little bit, I know. You got the Gotham up here at Aqueduct. You got the Fountain of Youth down at Gulfstream Park tomorrow afternoon. 2 Kentucky Derby prep races. Points will be awarded. Stay with us, the Matt Bernier Show.
California Chrome, straight and strong. Absolutely sensational. California Chrome. California Chrome. To California Chrome. Away to the Kentucky Derby. California Chrome wins impressively.
He's gone into overdrive. California Chrome wins the Dubai World Cup.
One of the greatest performances you'll ever see.
Chrome turns to gold.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRFTV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker, the exotic wagering app.
12:20 on the East, 9:20 on the West. The Matt Bernier Show here on DRFTV, live.drf.com, livestream.com. We're going to bring you right through to the end of this show. We've got the two big ones. I'm guilty of burying the lead a little bit. I understand. I get that. Let's dive into it. The two big 3-year-old preps going forward to the Kentucky Derby. They're the local preps for their big final local preps, if you get what I'm saying. Let's start off up here in New York at the Big A. We've got the Gotham. It's for the 3-year-olds. Going a mile and 16th on the inner dirt. You got a field of 10 signed on in here. All eyes are going to be on the horse to beat, and I don't think there's any question about it, L.R. Reed. But as we go through, take a look. J-Boy's Echo, I made him 16-1. Gaetano, no offense, 99-1. Migsy, 32-1. L.R. Reed, I think he is squarely the horse to beat, 2-1. Glenn Richmond, 32-1. True Timber, 24-1. Apart from the crowd, 24-1. So Conflated, 5-1. Cloud Computing for Chad Brown, the number 9, 5-1. And the 10, Action Every Day, 7-1 coming up from South Florida for Todd Pletcher. This is a really, really interesting race because I think L.R. Reeb has finally, he's at least proven me wrong. And I know there are other people that I know that they're starting to buy into this horse and just say at the end of the day, all he does is go out and win races. We're going to take a look. This is his most recent start in the Withers up here at Aqueduct on February the 4th. I love that he sat off the pace this time around rather than just go out there and do things. And I get it. You look at the fractions, 49-1, 14 flat for 3/4. What was he beating? I have to be honest, I don't particularly care. You look at the way that this horse is going down the lane. Trevor McCarthy's not asking him for a step. And I keep waiting for the pedigree to come up and bite him in the rear end. But how many times in recent history have we seen that, you know what, at face value, what the pedigree looks like on paper, it doesn't pan out. It doesn't bore out, where California Chrome wasn't supposed to be able to run a step past 5.5 furlongs on the turf. American Pharaoh, okay, you had Pioneer of the Nile, but on the bottom, I believe Little Princess Emma, she was a 6-furlong sprinter, 5.5 furlongs. I'm starting to wonder if this horse is just going to continue to prove all of us wrong. I think he's solely the horse to beat in this race. You have a couple of other interesting runners, though, if we're being honest. Cloud Computing for Chad Brown. Very impressive visually, on debut, scoring, considering he broke slowly. He had to overcome a little bit of a trip, and he actually extended and finished very, very well. He's another one, though. Basically, everything I just said about L.R. Reeb, I'm going to need a horse like Cloud Computing to prove me wrong. He's by McLean's Music. McLean's Music, who knows what his progeny are going to turn into, because he only raced one time, and he got that audacious 114 buyer. The horse that I'm most interested in, and I think is a live long shot, and he may not truly be a live long shot. He's 8-1 in the morning line. I've liked the way that So Conflated has run for Doug O'Neill thus far in his career. I know his most recent start, that was up at Golden Gate. We're going to take a look in the California Derby. I know this is synthetic. You see him bottled up behind horses, though, and the minute Mario gets him out into the clear, he changes leads. He's going to pop back to his left lead momentarily, which bothers me a little bit, but then he's going to quickly right the ship. I think he's just learning. And I understand if somebody wants to just say, throw him out because it was synthetic. I'm not going to argue. That's your prerogative. I'm not going to try and tell you what I think or what I really believe. But his run 2 back on the dirt, I think, was good enough to give me a little bit of inkling that he actually may be able to step with some of these horses. Maybe not L.R. Reeb, but I certainly think he fits at least as the second most likely winner in this race, if not right there as far as a clear-cut second most likely winner in here. That's no disrespect to Cloud Computing. Action Every Day is a little bit green for Pletcher. The blinkers go on with Rajiv aboard. I don't know what the prices are going to be. I really don't. I don't know how hard people are going to bet L.R. Reeb. I know he will be the heavy favorite. I just don't know how heavy. After that, I don't know who's going to be the second choice. I made So Conflated 5-1 from his 8-1 morning line. He classifies for me as a, air quotes, live long shot. Let's move on to the big one down at Gulfstream Park tomorrow afternoon. It's the Fountain of Youth, 50 points to the winner, and you essentially lock yourselves in to the starting gate. Here you are, field of 11 right now. And you're going to see if you're watching on live.drf.com or live stream, or you're catching the podcast on YouTube or video.drf.com, one of them is likely to scratch. We'll go right in order. Huracan Americo, Edgar Prado 24-1, Gunnevera 9-2, Quinientos 99-1, Talk Logistics 49-1. Beasley is the one that it sounds like Trainer Mark Henning is leaning toward Tampa Bay next weekend. He's likely to scratch, so he is not included in my value line, which has to add up to 100 points. Practical Joke 9-2, 3 Rules 9-1, Irish War Cry 7-2. As we turn the page, Made You Look 9-1, Takaful 13-1, Looking for 8, 13-1. I think the most likely winner, I know the value that I have assigned him may not sound like he's truly some sort of heavy favorite or a deserving favorite, but I think there's really no question in my mind. Irish War Cry is the horse to beat in here based on what he did in the Holy Bull most recently, and I understand. Soft lead. You see him, he's a little bit late to change leads. Rosario did a very good job to get him over. I love that he extends, though, down the lane. To me, this is a horse that's just figuring things out. It's not that he's got some sort of physical issue. You watch his first 2 runs up at Laurel. I think he's very, very green, but there's a lot of ability. There's no denying that. I don't care that he's bred in New Jersey. That doesn't mean anything to me. That's just where he was dropped. What do I care? I don't care if he's dropped in Hawaii. I don't care if he was dropped in Connecticut. He can run. He's got a little bit of pedigree. I love everything I've seen from this horse. This is going to be, going back to the top of the show, when I talked about sort of stability, I want this horse to run a good race. He doesn't have to win, but I want him to prove that he is actually sort of one of the horses that you need to really truly consider as one of the prime contenders for the Kentucky Derby. I think he is far and away the most likely winner in this race. A live long shot. I talked to my friend Jonathan Kinchin before, earlier today when I was coming into the office. And he called me because he was asking questions about the horse that I have I went through him and some friends of his for a future bet out in Las Vegas a few weeks ago on a horse called Huracan Americo. And I have him listed as a live long shot. I don't think he can win the race. But frankly, I don't need him to win the race. The points for me right now don't matter for Huracan Americo. I just need him to prove that he can actually step with our best 3-year-olds. If he can, and all I'm looking for, honestly, I think he's going to get outrun early. I think he's going to become way from the back of the pack. If he can make some sort of move and show a little bit of life toward the end, if you run 3rd, 4th, or 5th with a late move, I think that'll be enough for the connections to say, let's move on to the Florida Derby. And at that point, if you can't run 2nd or 3rd to get the points that you need to get into the Derby, then you're not good enough. But what I saw when he won his Grade 1 down there in his second lifetime start in Peru, going 1.5 miles against older horses, the mile and 16th, I think, is going to be too short for him, to be honest. I think he's going to need more distance to ultimately flourish. But Huracan Americo, I think, is just an interesting one. Again, I'm not suggesting he's a likely win candidate or even a likely upsetter, but I have him as a live long shot because I think he's one that you want to consider using underneath 3rd, 4th, even 5th if you're playing the super high 5. I think the Fountain of Youth, fun race. I want Irish War Cry. There's a part of me that wants Irish War Cry to really be the goods. I think he is a very talented horse. We'll find out ultimately if he passes the test. Speaking of tomorrow afternoon and the big day of racing down at Gulfstream Park, I was a little early when I said last week in the taped piece that DRF Live on Saturdays is changing. Not yet. We got a couple more weeks. Let's take a look and see what we've got lined up tomorrow afternoon. Starting at 3 o'clock Eastern, graded stakes galore. There may not be a grade 1 in there, but you've got graded stakes all over the joint, whether it's Gulfstream Park, whether it's Aqueduct. You see also the Santa Isabel. Can you believe I've gone through this entire show and haven't once uttered the name Unique Bella? She's going to be about 1 to 1 million in that spot. Even with the return of Grade 1 winner Abel Tasman, you've got a fun day of racing, top to bottom. We'll have a little bit of crossover. Illman and Beer will kick you off. We'll have crossover between the Devona Dale and the Gotham, and then Dan Illman and myself will bring you through right to the end, including the Fountain of Youth down at Gulfstream Park tomorrow afternoon. All I'm looking for is stability, folks. Let's have these 3-year-olds. I think they can run a little bit. I just need a little bit of stability. I want things to kind of even themselves out a little bit going forward. El Arib, do what you're supposed to do up here tomorrow afternoon. Irish War Cry. You're going to have to work at a different trip. You're not going to have such a candy lead. I think he's going to sit off of a target, but I'd like to see. I think he is the goods. And by the way, my actual pick in the Fountain of Youth, who I didn't even really talk about much, is Gunnavera. I think he's going to work out a nice trip with the pace scenario signed on in there. That's going to wrap up the 1-year anniversary of the Matt Bernier Show here on DRFTV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, Twitter, Facebook if you watch live, every Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you check it out on podcast, as far as the podcast version, whether it's visual or just audio, you've got YouTube, you've got SoundCloud, you've got iTunes, you have video.drf.com. As we always do, wrapping up the show on Fridays, if the race is going on, we will send you to the Friday Formulator race of the day. This is the nightcap at Santa Anita going down the hill. Best of luck this afternoon. Best of luck this weekend. Talk to you again next Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.